Hello, my name's Austin Lafferty and I am one of the solicitors and directors of this firm, Austin Lafferty Solicitors. I'm going to talk to you today for a couple of minutes about one of the sadder areas of law that we practice in, and that is separation. Family separation, family breakup, when a couple no longer can live together and they have to go their separate ways. Now, that's an easy thing to say. It's a very, very hard thing to do. There are personal issues, great upset, maybe pulling apart a home that's been built up over years, even decades, and a lot of emotional uh, distress and difficulty that has to be dealt with. And in amongst all of that, we have legal issues. Now, the legal issues are broadly in three categories. And I say broadly because in a short talk like this, we can't hope to deal with everything. And you would need to see a solicitor in detail about your particular situation if you are sadly involved in separation. Because, like fingerprints, every relationship is different, and therefore every separation, every withdrawal from that relationship is different. So, three main categories. The first is, let's call it property. And by property, I mean your house or flat. I mean bank accounts, pensions, life insurance, all of the things that you've built up during the relationship and now need to be separated out. The law talks about fair sharing. Based on whatever the date of separation is, that's the date at which most assets are valued. And here's the thing, it doesn't matter whose name something is in. You could have joint bank accounts, joint home, joint insurance policies and all of that. But sometimes you can have something that's in one name alone, such as a pension. For example, if it's a husband and wife, and we're talking today about marriage and civil partnership. Another day I'll talk about cohabitation, the separation of people that aren't married or in partnership. So the pension is in, say, the husband's name, for the sake of argument, and he has built that up over years. The wife has a claim on the value of that pension at the date of separation based on a calculation made professionally. But, broadly, it may be half of the accrued value between the date of marriage and the date of separation. Again, professional advice is necessary. But just because it's in his name doesn't mean to say he can walk away with it. All of the matrimonial assets have to be put together and counted up, and then a fair division has to take place. Now, I'm stressing the word fair because it doesn't necessarily even mean equal. For example, if a husband and wife is split up and there are young children, and the wife has had a career break, a career pause, or has had to take time to look after the children as they need looking after, we all know, those of us who are parents, then it may be that she will get more than 50% of the net assets in order to support her while she finds a way back into her career or the world of work as time goes on. So everything has to be calculated and shared fairly. And that includes debts as well. Now, if there are household debts, for example, holidays have been booked on a credit card, that's a family debt, even if it's the credit card's in one person's name, so that has to be shared fairly as well. But if one of the spouses has gone off and spent money crazily on things that are for him or her and not for the family, then it may be an argument that those are not matrimonial debts. So that's the first thing, property, very generally. The second thing is maintenance. There are two kinds of maintenance. There is maintenance between spouses or civil partners. And again, if one partner has been economically disadvantaged by the way the marriage has gone, they've contributed love, care, parental duties with children, and all sorts of other things that aren't in pure money terms, but they're what people need to contribute to a relationship, but have not earned and cannot earn substantially, then there may be a case for what we call spousal aliment. And that is just the maintenance by the greater earning spouse in favour of the other. But there's also child maintenance, and children have to be looked after. It's the duty of both parents to contribute to that as finances allow. And if one parent has residential care of the child, and I'll talk about that in a minute as the third category, then the other one, even if he or she is not the main caring parent, they still have to contribute according to legal formulas, and that's just right and proper, but it's also sanctioned by law. And the third category is care of the children, if there are children. There is no inherent right that one parent has over the other. For example, the mother saying, I'm the mother, I must have the children. Often it works out that way, but that depends again on the relationship. The law gives both parents an equal say and equal opportunity to look after the children, but depends on the circumstances. And clearly, if, for example, the husband has a job with long hours and he needs to do that to earn enough to look after the family, even when the family's separated, then it's unlikely that he will get residential care of the children, but he will get what sometimes are called visitation rights and properly are called contact, and that may be seeing the children every couple of times a week, keeping them overnight, going on holiday with them, and all of those kind of things. If there's a dispute between the couple as to who's to look after the children, then ultimately it can be regulated by the sheriff at the sheriff court if it comes to it. The test for that is what is in the children's best interests. What is good for them, not what the parents want, not what the parents think is their entitlement. It's not about the parents. Now, I sometimes give the example, the family dog is property and can be argued over and shared as property, but children are not property. They are people, and they have their own rights to be looked after and maintained and cared for and treated properly. And that is different from what the parents might want. So those are the three categories: property maintenance and child care. It is best or least worst if everything can be negotiated between husband and wife or between partners, and very often through lawyers. And if a settlement can be arranged in all these matters, then it's drawn up as what we call a minute of agreement, but it's a contract. It's a document that sets out what is to happen, signed up and registered, and that has the force of law. So the lawyers will spend time with their individual clients, then they'll negotiate with each other, and eventually it is hoped that a deal can be done and a settlement can be achieved. If it can't, then you can go to court. And that court action is a very stressful thing. It's a very upsetting thing. It takes forever, and it costs an awful lot more than a negotiated settlement. But if it has to be, it has to be. I consciously haven't mentioned divorce. I've talked about separation. We'll talk about divorce another day. But there is no need to get divorced in order to get a separation agreement drawn up or indeed sanctioned by the court, although very often the two things go together. But we will talk about that in another video. So I'll leave you with the thought that it is a very sad event when a family breaks up. Sometimes it is inevitable, but when it happens, you need to be protected and looked after. I go back to the beginning and say people going into a relationship, sadly, in this country are very often unaware of the legal consequences of that and what's going to happen at the other end. If it were me, I would have classes for couples that are intending to get together, instructing them in the law. But that's maybe a political one rather than a legal one. But anyway, when the day comes, you do need to get legal advice so that you know what your rights are. Never sign anything without being legally advised on it. Never agree anything. And hopefully, at least on the technical legal side, it can be a softer landing than it is emotionally. Thank you.